Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. New face, not a new one, but I'm typically behind the scenes. I'm Isaiah Roberts, the development director for the Michigan Cannabis Industry Association, and today we are joined with the legendary Chris Jackson, owner and president of Lansing Pharaohs and part owner of Sticky.
Wow, legendary. Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Say we don't fall short now. No, but thanks for coming in. Really, really appreciate it, and didn't know that you actually spend more time than I expected in Lansing.
I do, but that's what a new venture in basketball team would do to you. But I think we're gonna talk about that at some point. But yeah, thanks for having me. No, appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So let's just start out. Like, how did you get into the cannabis industry?
How did I get into the cannabis industry? And so a few people may have heard this story before, but I would say circa 2016, 17 and 18. Ran for city council in the city of Pontiac. Ran for state rep shortly after that. Lost both by 40. Well, first one by 40 votes. So like stupid close. You know what I mean? But I was always a pro cannabis candidate. And so my now partner, Jake Abraham, actually supported my campaign when I ran for state rep. Right. And at the time, Sticky Ipsy, the flagship location, was the only location, and it was still in the medical market even. So basically said, look, we're looking at expanding. You obviously have project expansion experience. You have project management, legislative affairs. We want to do for the community ultimately that we exist in. Can you come in and help us out? And since then, I guess the rest is history. But that's how I got officially involved in the cannabis industry. Yeah.
Sure. Backtrack a little bit.
Yeah.
You're from Pontiac. What was it like growing up in Pontiac?
It's urban America. You know what I mean? A lot of people from where I'm from, either got away with being illegal entrepreneurs, right, at the time, or got caught up because of it. You know what I mean? Which is why I'm mad passionate about people who are making money, yet there's still people who are locked up for cannabis. It's out of control. You know what I mean? And so, but that's where I'm from. But, I was fortunate enough to have like different experiences. And so I went to Cranbrook for high school, right, which is this private, basically its own country.
Yeah.
Received a scholarship and was just able, and I graduated from West Bloomfield ultimately, but was just able to get different perspectives, experiences, which definitely helped like in my entrepreneurial journey where we are today. So,
nice.
Pontiac was, no different than probably Detroit, Flint, Saginaw. You know what I mean? Very similar in that way, just different faces. You know what I mean? So
then you went like across the state. Then you go to Hope
College. Yeah. So Ivy League in Michigan. So and that was an experience really similar to Cranbrook even. Because the names that we know, the DeVosses, the Vandos, like all of their kids went to Hope.
Yeah.
So like I didn't grow up in that environment, you know what I mean? But it was a super cool experience. I would say more than anything, like networking. It's the reason why I feel like I can just go into any room and be okay. Because I had those types of experiences and exposures at the time. You know what I mean? So
yeah. How long did it take to be able to get to that point, to be able to go into any room and kind of, move and operate and be yourself and feel confident? Like how long did it take to get to that point? What do you think was like really important?
I mean, Cranbrook kind of forced the issue. You know what I mean? It's like either you're going to get along with people or you aren't going to be here for very long. You know what I mean? And so I was definitely still rough around the edges. But again, what was interesting is the mentality, right? You pick up on it now, and I'm thinking back, like I didn't think about it this way, but it was a lot of, instead of making it to the league, which is a lot of what urban America is about, you know what I mean? It was for them, it was more like, why don't you own a team? And like you start to pick up on those types of mentalities all of a sudden, and then you just get comfortable in spaces, you know what I mean? And so I think that was the start of it. And then since then, it's just been a matter of we're people. I am who I am. You don't have to love me. You know what I'm saying? You can almost dislike me, but like as long as we respect one another, that's the only thing that I care about.
You know? Yeah, because I always say you don't got to agree with me, just know where I'm coming from. And that's all it really is. But
that's it.
I can definitely relate, growing up in a Grand Ledge, a PWI, and,
Yeah.
going to school and be like, ain't nobody looking like me. This is
100%.
just wild. Like, and
Yeah.
like you said, like, if you don't, fall in line, you ain't gonna be here too
Right.
long. So
Right.
you have to like really see, like, and I told myself, like, all right, I don't look like nobody, I don't act like nobody. So if we get caught with something, I ain't gonna get treated like anybody else around here.
True
So I really
story.
gotta just move differently. And I think like being myself helped me just be like, all right, like I'm really him. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So like no reason to doubt and like have like basically self-doubt of any situation, go in any room and just be yourself. You can really just light it up. And I take that just whole the heart. And like I just see people who like struggle.
Yeah.
And for me, like it's all just internal because I'll be in the car like before like an event, I'll be like, man, why am I nervous? There's a
Yeah.
bunch of people that I respect and I love and I've seen and I know,
Right.
but it's still like every time it feels like new. And the brain is a powerful muscle
Mhm.
that can, uh, give you a concept of reality or distort it and make you like think that something ain't there. But I
And
think,
exposure helps, right?
yeah,
Like
exposure
just
helps.
having exposure goes a long way. Like I know people who are from Pontiac who won't see the other side of Michigan
Mhm.
until well into their 20s or 30s.
Right.
And they don't know how to necessarily, and it's not a color thing per se. It's culture,
Yeah.
right? It's how
Mhm.
people move. Like it's just different. You know what I mean?
Right.
Very similar to like people getting used to the cannabis industry in the same way. Like it's cultural, right?
Yeah.
Like some people just haven't seen the other side of the culture
Mm-hmm.
until now, right? And so older people in our communities, and that was one of the things that I was trying to push. Older people in our communities are very much used to the way that they've been doing things for a
Right.
long time. So you got to give that grace to people to just get an opportunity to understand what we do. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And like being able to bridge that gap of like, culture clashes is something special too. But you made up that point just like not being able to like travel across the state. Like some people don't even have that chance. But we're like you're a little different because you are a part owner of Sticky and they've actually, branched out a lot because they started out in Ypsilanti.
Yes, sir.
And then what was the second one? Detroit. And
The
then
second one was Detroit. Yep. Yep.
and then how many total do you do is there right now?
Yeah, so right now there are two that are open and operating, right?
Okay.
So we were Sticky Ipsy was 1st,
Mhm.
then Ypsilanti went adult use.
Mhm.
So that was our first adult use store, our flagship store. And then we ended up doing a management joint venture in Detroit.
Mhm.
Battle Creek opened up shortly after that. So we're operating in Battle Creek as we speak.
Nice.
There are some issues with Detroit, right?
Mhm.
Obviously, we could talk a whole podcast on just what's going on in Detroit.
Right.
But anyway, long story short, we ended up saying River Rouge is probably a better opportunity, just because it's adult use.
Mhm.
And we don't have to necessarily, and it's close enough in proximity to Detroit where we can probably gather
Yeah.
a lot of that consumption base, right?
Mhm.
So we ended up, that partnership ended up dissolving, and we ended up, we have a location in River Rouge that's getting ready to open, and then also another one in Muskegon. And actually, we're in Lansing. We're building out a cultivation facility in Rio Town, right over by the stacks. Actually, we're looking at it right now. So,
Plus, sounds like a short walk
yeah,
in the
yeah.
summer.
I'm not walking right now, though. But
Oh, not
but no,
20
but we
degree
here,
weather.
yeah. So cultivation facility for no other reason than if something were to happen and the larger outfits decided that they wanted to keep all of their product, you gotta be able to feed your stores, right?
Mhm.
So just getting vertically integrated in that way. But
Nice.
those are the things we're working on.
Yeah, and congrats on the journey to vertical integration. Can't wait to check out the Lansing cultivation facility when it's operational. But what would you say is the key piece for expansion in this industry and outside this industry too?
Yeah, I
Because
got you. I got you. Just understanding your strengths, right? But more
Mhm.
importantly, knowing what you don't know, right? Or
Right.
or just understanding what you don't do well, right?
Mhm.
Like we don't position ourselves ever as, in comparison, the Louis Vuitton or the Gucci of our industry, right? Because
Mhm.
it's not who we are. It's not our identity. It's not any of the partners. Like we don't come off that way. We're more of the Gap of the industry, right? Like our goal is volume
Mhm.
versus I guess quote unquote high pricing, right?
Mhm.
So much love to Burner and Cookies. They're more on the top end of what we do, right?
Right.
You need to go to their store twice and they've gotten what they need, like in the prices, you only gonna probably go twice in a month, you know what I mean, and get the merch and have the experience. And that model works well for them, right? For us, we're very much a part of the neighborhood in which we operate in. So we do have $5 grams on the shelf, right? Because we understand the community in which we're serving ultimately. And that's been kind of our secret sauce, is not the pricing, it's just fitting the culture of the community you exist in. And I think that's important in any business, right? And I don't think enough people actually pay attention to that. But again, that's another conversation for another time. But yeah, our goal is just understanding what we do well, and fitting in communities where we know we'll do well. So when you talk about Ypsi, when you talk about Battle Creek, when you talk about Muskegon and River Rouge, very similar in terms of populace, demographic, but again, it's just we understand what we do well.
Exactly. Definitely very important. Now, in June, we definitely had you on for the Detroit series that we were doing, kind of webinars from our ancillary members, and we had you on for pitching your business and raising capital. And you said something about the Marriott approach and how you kind of like shifted it to your situation. Can you like tell us more about that for people who didn't catch that, and how it helped you?
For sure, yeah. So what Marriott does is there are some properties that they own, right? That the hospitality company, but there are some that they just manage, right? And probably have a different joint venture agreement with. So for us, it's about piecemealing those types of opportunities, right? And so while Ypsilanti is kind of our flagship location, it's where we operate, right? We own it, right, outright. The Detroit situation was kind of that Marriott management piece where give us an opportunity to show you that we know what we're doing from an operational standpoint, first and foremost, because I think there's a lot of people who think that retail and cannabis is just an easy thing to do, and it's really not. It's a lot of people with a lot of money that didn't know how to operate and closed in 2 or 3 months. You know what I mean? And so for us, it's let us show you we know what we're doing. And then we can figure out how ownership stake can split or be a part of what we do, right? So the Marriott approach is let us fly our banner on your location. We figure out how to make the numbers work between us, but ultimately we'll manage it for you, right? So we've had success really in both, obviously. And it just depends on the location, the ownership group, what the relationship is, those type of things.
Nice. Yeah, I like how, you say like give us a chance, to basically, offer what you do, do what you do, and see what happens. Now, I do like how you said you have, you got $5 grams on the shelves. I think that's so important, just based off of affordability and accessibility. I remember I asked my brother what he wanted for Christmas. Like I said, shots out to Burn. He said a pack of Gary Payton. I'm like, all right, that's your birthday present. It ain't no Tuesday. It ain't no Tuesday. We can spend a whole Sunday, hour and a half in line, because it was curbside at the time too. So ain't nobody was going in. The line touching 8 Mile. We gonna get hit out here. You know what I'm saying? So,
and let me shout out Jake, my partner. He came from the restaurant industry, right? So he was aware of, kind of how it made sense in terms of top shelf, mid shelf, low. Like he was aware of how that operated in a different hospitality industry and just brought it over to cannabis, right? So that was really like his baby in a lot of ways, right? But then to your point, it became, okay, like understanding what accessibility means.
Right.
And chances are that person didn't even come expecting to get what they got, right? And so it means that they're going to be repeat customers. And again, we're all about volume. You know what I mean?
And would you say like that falls under like community impact and how you reach your customers?
So yes, and indirectly, right? Just because we make it affordable for the communities that we happen to be in. If you're in Berkeley or Royal Oak, like it might not be necessary, right? But that's also not the people we're trying to make our consumer. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like we have a clear, we welcome everybody, but we just have a clear understanding of who our consumers are, and who we build a relationship with ultimately. So that's a part of the community impact. But other things like, for instance, and hopefully you don't mind my veering off in this direction, but like
No.
other things we've done is, we've given laptops to, for instance, in Ypsilanti, in the Ypsilanti School District, seniors who were getting ready to graduate and go to a local college.
That's wonderful.
We wanted to support them, obviously, because we know they
Mhm.
can't afford things like laptops, but
Right.
it's necessary, right?
Mhm.
In order for them to be successful in college. Shout out to Ryan Bayshore, right? Obviously a friend of MICIA,
Of course.
and Redemption, and what his story is and what he's doing to help people who have been, imprisoned, right?
Mhm.
Like expungement fairs. We've done a number of those. But for me, if you look at kind of what I do across the board in terms of boards and other things, and far too many to name right now, but it's economic opportunity related. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like for me, like my goal is to provide opportunities for people of color, social equity applicants,
Mhm.
etc. Just because, you can you can do some nice things for the community. You can buy some fire trucks and some police, whatever the case, like all that stuff matters and is necessary. But 4% is stupid, right? In terms of the amount of people of color who are actually owners,
Right.
licensed owners,
Mhm.
in the state, right? And so we had that racial task force work group with Andrew Brisbo's group that I was fortunate enough to be a part of, to say, okay, look, here's 16 recommendations that we have as a group, right,
Mhm.
from across the state that could have an immediate impact on allowing more opportunity,
Yeah.
right? And some of those things are starting to be implemented. The micro A, the class A micro license, right?
Mhm.
Going from 150 plants to 300 plants, and you not having to pay a lot of money for processing, but being able to procure from processors, like that's something that makes it more affordable,
Right.
and provides more of an opportunity
Mhm.
for more of an affordable license that I believe more social equity applicants are going to get eventually, right?
Yeah.
So just trying to put my thumbprint on things that hopefully go the distance to provide opportunities is really my focus these days.
Yeah, and that's like a great answer.
I
And I think
appreciate it.
like getting into this industry for me, and I haven't been here for too long, but I think I've just networked and I've seen so many business owners that do these nice gestures, at a large scale, going shopping for families during the holiday season, just giving back year round. I think they just do it because it's right, and that they had the chance to do it, and like it wasn't there before.
Mhm.
And compared to other industries, it might just be for the holidays. They doing something like a little give back, but
Agreed.
this industry is like you can always see someone giving back just because it's right, and social equity is just important. And like I think giving back to the or giving high schoolers laptops before they go to college, and an essential tool, to be successful is important. And that's just one group.
Right.
Love seeing because I'm only thinking of Ryan. Shouts out to him. I just saw that Instagram post of him grocery shopping, and I'm just like, good guy.
Yeah.
And but that's just what it's all about. I don't see any other person or any other business outside of cannabis, like we're just come together and really have a common goal, of how to help people outside of our own circle. And it's just super important. And
And everybody has a lane,
yeah.
right? Like everybody has a lane that they can service. So for some people, it's certainly giving out turkeys,
Mhm.
right? Like because people are hungry, you know what I
Right.
mean? People don't have homes. So like there's a lane for that.
Mhm.
There's a lane for, what you mentioned. And then for me, like there's a lane for people who can help provide more tangible opportunities for people to create wealth. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so everybody has a lane, and I don't think it's a competition, or at least it shouldn't be, right?
Mhm.
It should be collectively, that person does that person does that. If I
Right.
know Ryan is doing this, no reason for me to recreate the wheel. Let me
Exactly.
just
Mhm.
participate and help them. You know what
Or
I
just
mean?
just shouts out and be a part of something big,
Absolutely.
and that's what it's all about. And so you mentioned before that your legislative background is more in the past. So you recently served as the board of the NCIA
Yeah. I'm the secretary now for
currently.
the National Cannabis Industry Association, NCIA.
Gotcha.
Super dope. It's the oldest and largest, trade association in the United States related to cannabis. I mean,
Okay.
so 10 years, 11 years now, but 10 years deep. Just fighting for legalization. And it's interesting because now there's a pivot toward, okay, once legalization happens, how do you implement it? Right. Like what does that look like after the fact with a regulated industry? And so it's been fun being on the cusp of what was the fight and like what's getting ready to be the next fight. You know what I mean? But that's been a cool experience because I've had an opportunity to see at a national level what's going on, who's doing things well, who aren't doing things so good. Who were the trailblazers and now they have to scale back. It's been an experience that I think has helped with a lot of even my being able to contribute to where Michigan is going in some ways, right? As long as, the MRA takes my call, like I got an opinion about, what's happening and what makes sense. And shout out to Director Risbo because he's always been really open to my whatever expertise that I have to offer, and so it's been a cool experience. Not to mention, NCI has always been for diversity, equity, and inclusion for sure. I was the first Black male board member, and while that was cool, it was also like, okay, it took long enough. Now let's do what we can to continue to promote diversity, right? And I'm not just talking about ethnicity, but religious backgrounds. I'm talking women, right?
Exactly.
The goal is to promote everybody gets smarter. The more the diverse the table is, right? And so that's always my goal is like, I don't know everything. I don't claim to know everything. I know what I know. Let's find people who can help fill in some of those gaps. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And for me, I always get nervous about being the first anything because I don't want to be the first and only in that category like that. I'm like, all right, it took long enough to get here. And like now we got more work to do. And I'm just happy y'all chose me as the mind to be the catalyst for that. So
or F it up for everybody else, right? I don't want to be that guy either.
So. Right, exactly. I'm not speaking for everybody else. I'm not speaking for me. I definitely feel that. So you definitely because been a part of the NCIA for a while. Was the secretary your only position? Or you said you were part of the board too?
Yeah. So when I started, this was probably going into my second term on the board. Gotcha. And so my first term, even before I was on the board, I was a part of the state regulations committee.
Gotcha.
Really just talking about regulations, compliance things, right? How states were coming online, if it made sense the way that they were doing it. That was a lot of that work. And then that just got propelled into my being nominated for a board seat. And then I became secretary. So it's been about a year since I've been in the secretary position.
Gotcha. Yeah. Nice. Now, when you said, when trying to pick the next fight, you said there were trailblazers, but now they have to scale back. What made you say, why did they scale back?
So what I mean by that is getting to legalization or to a regulated industry in a fair way or equitable way is a fight into itself. You know what I mean? And the NCIA has spent probably about 10 years getting to that point. The next 5 to 10 years, though, is, okay, how do you implement it in a way where it's still equitable, where it's still fair, there's still opportunity? Like it just shifted, like the shade of it all just shifted from one focus to another.
Gotcha.
And so it's about figuring out how you can still add value to the grand scheme of things when literally like the card has just been flipped over all of a sudden. You know what I mean? And you got special interests now. And it's a different political fight than it was before, like the last 10 years, right? So that's what I mean by things being one way and then shifting to basically having to focus on a different thing altogether.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Because the fight changes every 5 years.
Well, you know how I mean, shit. My bad. It changes. It changes almost every day, right? In an infant state, especially. But if we're talking about federally changing, like it's a little longer of a change, but you can still see the same signs of it all.
Yeah. Cool. So shifting, owner. Let's talk about being the owner and president of this up and coming basketball team
Yeah, man.
that you're introducing, the
Yeah.
Lansing Pharaohs.
Lansing Pharaohs, man. You got a particular question, or you just want me to talk about them?
Well, just like when you said where I come from, you got to have a nice jump shot. But why not owning a team? Is that
Right.
something you always thought about? Was it a dream that you always thought in your mind, you just kind of brought to fruition? Like, what motivated that when you just said, you know what, it's time?
Yeah, I feel like I manifested it. But it came like super serendipitously. You know what I mean? And so, a friend of mine owns the Flint team, so we're part of this league called the TBL, the Basketball League.
Gotcha.
Been around for about 5 years. Last year there were 30 teams around the country. This team, I think, it'd be closer to like 45, right?
Okay.
So pro level, probably a tier underneath the G League in terms of competition, right? But anyway, the goal was for Sticky to sponsor the entire league, right? Like that was the original thing. A little too progressive, probably for a professional league. You know what I mean? We'll get there.
Right.
We'll get there. But they did say that they were looking at opening up a market in Michigan. And so obviously I'm thinking like, I'm from the Pontiac area, so it makes some sense maybe for me to do it there, but super saturated market, obviously, with, the G League team and obviously the Detroit Pistons. And I remember the time that I had spent here, and the professional team here is Michigan State. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so it was an opportunity to say, okay, Lansing, I mean, it's the house that Magic built, right? Like it's a basketball town.
Yeah.
Without a pro basketball team. And so the market was open. Shouts out to Rep Sarah Anthony, Dez Ferguson from Moneyball, and a couple of other people, Tony Willis at Leap. Like they basically came out and was like, yo, like we would support it if you decided to bring it here ultimately. And so about 8 months ago, we made an announcement that the Lansing Pharaohs are coming. So we'll be playing in Lansing, obviously, starting in March. At the Don Johnson Fieldhouse, which is over on Pennsylvania Ave over there. And so just happy to be a part of the fabric of an already thriving community. You know what I mean? Like it goes back to what we were talking about.
Yeah.
The goal isn't to come in and say this is what you need. The goal is to be a part of what you're already doing, right? From a business perspective. And so Sticky is the main sponsor, and so you'll see it on the jerseys this season if you happen to come to a game. But yeah, it's really closing that gap between cannabis and sports. Real quick, I was doing a podcast for a little while called the Cannavision Midwest Podcast. In long story short, we had Rob Sims and Calvin Johnson on the podcast. And Calvin Johnson, I mean, 75% of the league consumes cannabis to some extent already. And if you found out that, like Josh Gordon was the receiver that kept getting kicked out of the league for weed, but it was because it was like the third time in one instance, right, that he got caught. And so if you hear about it, it's because it's to the point now where we can't keep protecting you. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Very similarly, though, like my goal in a professional league, in a league that may not have as much spotlight notoriety as the NBA, is to say, how can we start having some of these hard conversations now, right?
Right.
I own a cannabis business, but I also own a professional basketball team. Like, how do I tell my players without being a hypocrite, right, that they can't consume, right? Particularly if it's not detrimental to the team or to themselves, right? And so hopefully with a professional platform and with the experience and what I have, I can help add to transitioning the conversation for professional athletes in cannabis as well.
Yeah, that's huge. That is very huge because, bringing those difficult conversations to the table, of course, ain't easy because everybody asking is of what do we do? The real topic is how, and that's important. So they're going to play at the Doc Johnson Fieldhouse. How many games are they going to play in the season?
It's 14 home games, 28 total
28
between
total.
March and May. And we'll have a schedule coming out here in the probably next week or so for the season. So
yeah, I need to know when them home games are because I'm getting them season tickets.
Heard, please. Everybody else do the same. You know what I mean? But I appreciate that.
Yeah. Is the away games, is it just cross state or is it nationwide?
So Midwest, generally speaking, we're doing a crossover this year against Canada teams as well.
Gotcha.
So, and that's another interesting thing, right? Is Michigan is legal,
Mhm.
right? Indiana absolutely is not. You know
Right.
what I mean? And so there are those types of things that get like why federal legalization needs to occur sooner rather than later,
Mhm.
so that there can be some type of uniformity, I guess, across the country, right?
Yeah.
Because you can go to jail for a long time just by taking weed in the Indiana,
Right.
but you're fine here in Michigan. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
so some of those dichotomies, like I got real issues with, but yeah, it is
Yeah.
what it is, I guess.
And I'm gonna just druff a little bit,
Yeah.
because we did a webinar on with the advanced group at MICI member about talent acquisition and like how hard it was in the talent drought. Did you have any obstacles or hurdles finding talent for the team, or no? Was it like easy with the tryouts? Did it come naturally?
For
Or,
the team, I mean, you got a lot of guys who aren't traveling overseas anymore
right.
that are looking for a professional opportunity.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And so I think we had success in the 6 tryouts that we did across the state.
Gotcha.
Similarly, even if we're talking about that, even in the cannabis industry, it's the cool industry to be a part of right now,
Mhm.
right? So I don't think we missed the beat. As a matter of fact, like because we were planning for growth, we had way more people than we even needed,
Mm.
that were either interested and or that were working. You know what I mean? And so for anybody that's anti our space, like we saved a lot of economies.
Yeah.
You know what I
Exactly.
mean? Like just on some sheer numbers, like
Mhm.
we saved a lot of economies. We give a lot of people jobs. You know what I mean? So whatever they have against the industry, they should probably get over it. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Exactly. On the topic of just starting a business and the entrepreneurial mindset, obviously get pivot back on topic.
Yeah.
Why is it like so important for any business owner to really know their worth and know how important it is to bet on yourself?
Yeah. So I was fortunate in that, like, I had parents that allowed me to be fearless. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, just for good or for bad, like entrepreneurs in their own right. One of the legal variety, one of not so much. You know what I mean? And I was just fortunate enough to be fearless about like just going after the things that I want. And not everybody is made to be an entrepreneur either. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? And so I'm learning as I get older that it's innate in some ways. Sure, some things are learned, but like a lot of it is DNA. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
and the want to do it. Now, if you want to do it though, right? Um, at the end of the day, we only got so many years on this ball of mud. You know what I
Right.
mean? And so um, I, I'm not going to be here forever. Like you might as well live life the way that you see fit.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And it was interesting. If I got a second, like so after I ran for public office
Mhm.
and I lost, right? I basically came to the conclusion that 50% of the people either disliked me,
Right.
liked somebody else better, or didn't know who I was,
Mhm.
right? So I feel like people worry far too often about what other people think
Yeah.
instead of just focusing on the whatever percent it is that actually like messes with you and what you represent
Mhm.
and what you do. Like you're gonna be a villain to some people, you're gonna be a hero to other people. And you just got to be okay with that so
Right.
long as you feel like you're doing the right things with whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And so like I really just came to a space where like I'm okay with that so long as like I feel like I'm doing the right thing and I'm doing the right things for the right people. And there's gonna be a lot of people who just don't know you
Right.
or just like somebody else better. And that's okay. It doesn't mean that you aren't going to be successful. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
just go after whatever it is you want. And that's just kind of where I'm at with it.
Yeah, definitely. Being in this space for 2 years, I've learned so much. And one of those things is just scared money don't make no money,
Mhm.
and you just really, gotta be fearless. Definitely how you're, brought up, if
Yeah.
you're, bred to be obviously take the safe route, you're gonna tend to do that until you learn something different.
True.
And yeah, I had a, stint in the summer that made me realize that I'm young and I got a great opportunity, but I'm not getting any younger, and it's time to do it right now. And it's just like really important to know your worth and bet on yourself, and to like if you're ever trying to gauge or judge any business deals, evaluate all of them and don't take the first one
Right.
off rip, because you don't know what they're trying to sell you off first.
This is
And
true.
some people try to sell you short because they know what you're worth, and they see that you don't.
Yeah.
and it's a
well, set your price. You know, I think it was a Jay-Z lyric, right? Like, set your price and live your life. You know what I mean? Like, just live your life, man. Just, you know, my price is my price, and as long as you feel good about what your price is, and then that's what it should be.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you had to give advice to 2011 Chris Jackson, what would you give?
That's a good question. It probably would have been the very thing that I just said. You know, I'm trying to give you something different, but like just understanding you don't have to please everybody. You know what I mean? Like it's okay to ruffle some feathers. I feel like, you know, it's nice to be respected and well liked. At the same time, like if everybody likes you, you're probably doing something wrong. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, or you aren't making enough noise. You know what I mean? And so for me, it's just be authentically who you are, period. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you can grow, you're gonna make some mistakes, and hopefully like it's not detrimental to the point to where you can't recover.
Right.
You know what I mean? But just authentically be who you are. And like I said, like I felt it then, but like I started honing on in it much later. So
yeah,
that's the advice for anybody really that's getting off into their career or figuring out who they want to be. Do what you want to do, set your price, and just be authentically you. That's it.
Cool.
Even in this industry, especially in this industry.
That's nice. Thank you for that. And is there anything else you want to mention? I think we kind of
no. Shout out to you. Shout out to Robin, MICIA. Y'all do a lot of good work. People are seeing positive differences with you all being here in the industry. You know, we don't give roses enough, I think, when people are around, you know what I mean? And so any opportunity that I have, like I know I'm not successful just because of me at all. So shouts out to the team, to partners, you know what I mean? But more importantly, like just keep doing what y'all doing. Anything I can do on my small perch, I guess, at NCIA, certainly willing to help. But appreciate y'all.
Hey, we appreciate that too. And thank you guys for watching. Now it is time for our ancillary shout out. Thank you guys for the show. And next week we will have Blooming Botanicals on next Wednesday at 2:00. We'll catch you then.